I'm ready. Okay. Yeah. Let's do this. How's my audio levels? Do I need to move this like further away from my mouth?
No, I think closer was better.
Closer was better? Okay. We're not talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, so I won't be shouting tonight.
I'll try to get caught up for next week if you guys want to talk about it a little bit.
I want to give that show the benefit of the doubt, but every episode I'm having to try harder.
Maybe at this point we should wait till the end of the show because it's only,
so.
2 more weeks?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. Are you guys set?
I am set. Are you set?
I'm set.
Yep.
All right. Let's do this.
I feel the need to do another podcast. You are listening to the Making Geeks podcast, a podcast for makers, families, and geeks.
What's up, everybody?
What's up, gentlemen?
How's it going?
I wouldn't have expected anything less out of that intro.
I didn't know. I mean, there's a couple of different options of which way to take it, but I took the low road, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely did not buzz the tower, though.
You were writing checks that this podcast couldn't cash.
And I wish I had a funnier quip to come back to that, but now I don't. Okay.
It's all right. How's it going?
Good. All right, that's it. See you next week.
Thank you for tuning into the Making Geeks
podcast.
Well,
we had a week off, and I think that quite a bit has happened in that time. Some traveling, some seeing of unique things. So we want to kind of catch everybody up to what we've been up to over the last 2 weeks. I guess I could go first since I think it's been almost 2 weeks ago. I went to a Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, California. First time going. Wasn't sure what to expect other than what people usually post on social media and stuff. And I have to say I was supremely disappointed.
What?
I actually didn't enjoy it much at all. No.
Really?
And to be fair, though, there's a couple things too. Is I went on the last day. And the last day of any convention is usually the worst day, comparison-wise. And I wasn't that impressed with it. I had more fun just seeing the costumes and stuff that people made and were walking around with than anything that the show had to offer in and of itself.
Huh.
So what were you expecting? Have you been to celebrations before?
No.
So what were you expecting going into it? I'm curious.
I was expecting to have a good time, and that didn't happen.
What would have made it a good time? Like
half the people not being there? No. I think that part of the problem was that the shows and stuff weren't very accessible. There's long lines, which there always are. It's not my first time going to a convention like this, so those things are always an issue. But even some of the entertainment that they had, it was pretty poor.
Not Fire Festival level bad, apparently, but
no, not like that. I'll give an example in a moment, but I went there and I researched some things I wanted to see ahead of time, and most of it was really not that impressive. Trying to think of how to put into thoughts to be a little bit more coherent with what I'm saying, but it didn't seem like there was a really good unified driving force of what this thing was supposed to be, other than maybe like a media panel of releasing, trailers and stuff. Everything else outside of those big panels just seemed kind of
thin,
really kind of haphazardly put together.
Okay.
Some of the displays were nice, but everything else was kind of. It didn't seem like there was anything kind of regulating or like, here's the experience you want people to have. It's here's a space, rent the space, and we'll put things up that are interesting for people to look at. But I didn't really see what the point was overall. I don't know where the governing body is. I don't think it's Lucasfilm. I don't know who's in control. Even the area for like buying stuff. I don't know. I was not that impressed by it. And this isn't me trying to be a hater or anything along those lines or purposely being kind of sour about it. I honestly was not that impressed overall.
Were you thinking like not exactly the scale of like a Disney park, but just more encompassing of an experience to make it feel like it was about Star Wars all the time, or is it sort of like slapped together, like kind of randomly feeling?
See, I was under the impression that there was a stronger organization of what was going on, as opposed to here's an open spot for a swap meet.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's not entirely that, but it did kind of feel that way in some instances. And I was hoping to go try to find some cool collectibles, which, they did have some stuff there. I didn't even end up buying anything. They have an area set aside for a specific store for a Star Wars celebration. And I was looking forward to that because I wanted to buy, shirts and anything that I thought was kind of unique for the event. We had to wait for 20 minutes in line just to get into the store. There's a huge part of the convention center. And you walk around and it looked like all these boxes were taken and just thrown in an area. It didn't resemble anything like a store. And I know it's probably not a fair comparison, but everything there was to look at to possibly buy was at least like 15 to 20 feet apart. In a lot of the instances of just a case with the top of the cardboard box cut open and left open for people to dig through.
I see. It didn't have like a polish.
It almost seemed disrespectful,
right?
In a way. And we finally got to some areas where like the shirts and stuff, and the shirts were like $30 to $35, and I passed on everything. The only thing I came away with was a cheap canvas bag that said Star Wars Celebration, because that's what they gave away.
That was your swag?
Yeah, in terms of swag, that's all there was. There was no other swag. And I think that's part of what I was expecting too, because I've been to a lot of conventions. I've been to SIGGRAPH, I've been to E3, I've been to Maker Faire, and you come away with a bunch of stuff, and it kind of feels like the attendee is being appreciated for being there. I didn't feel that at all. And maybe it took me 10 minutes right now just to kind of come to that statement, but that's really the way I kind of felt. A lot of the stuff was really cool to see, but as an experience, I was very disappointed. So yeah, so that was Star Wars Celebration.
Is it would this experience dissuade you from ever doing it again?
I'm not sure. I think that Star Wars Celebration it kind of felt like a cosplay opportunity, and that's it. Which I'm not entirely against. My son really wants to go back and cosplay. He's really into wanting to make a costume, and I'm not against it for that one purpose. If we're going for that idea, I guess. I don't know if I want to pay that ticket price.
How much was it?
We got discount because our friends bought tickets ahead of time. They weren't able to go. I think they're $50 to $80 a ticket.
Wow.
Yeah. Not super expensive, but not cheap by any means either.
Especially considering the amount of people.
Yeah, actually the number of people really didn't bother me that much. It didn't feel like any other convention I've been to, and that's kind of a bad thing.
Maybe it's doing itself a disservice by using the phrase celebration. It doesn't sound like anything like a celebration the way you're describing it.
Yeah, and I like I said, I've been to a lot of these conventions before, even like Comic-Con, and I know that they all end up being huge marketing opportunities, and I actually have no issue with that.
Right.
I almost have to go on maybe the first or second day as a comparison, because the last day is really, really bad. And I don't know if I really care that much about being in the halls with the big announcements like I used to. So I don't know if this event is necessarily for me anymore.
Makes sense.
Yep.
What have you been up
So
to?
how about you guys?
I have been busy working. I have gotten back in the shop, which it's been a while since I've actually been in the shop working on stuff. I've had a little bit of a motivation issue working on projects again. But I'm back in the shop. I am putting the last finishing touches on a project that is way overdue to being done. A little house that I'm building, which is turning out a lot better than I thought it was. I really like how it is turning out. It's super cool. I hope they like it, is all I can say. But I'm getting that done. Working with Jess and Derek now, being video editors for them, which has been fun seeing the projects that other people are making. Doing my work at SketchUp, and then just taking care of my kids because they are off for the summer, and so it is a weird, slightly frustrating at times juggling act, trying to juggle work and 3 little children around me at all times, especially when I have video meetings and they're wanting my attention. It's been interesting.
I think the solution is really simple. Put them to work. Teach them to edit. And just have your own little workforce there.
Yeah, it's a lack of equipment at this point. Like, even I got a computer for work to do my stuff with SketchUp, which has been great, but it also has given me the opportunity to realize how old my desktop computer is and how I've been squeaking by on like the bare minimum requirements for doing the type of work that I need to do. And now that I have this comparison, I'm like, dang it, I can't go back to my desktop now because like the laptop computer, which in itself isn't great, but it will be able to render a video in like 4 minutes, whereas my desktop computer would be like 2 to 3 hours. I was like, I can't believe I was working like this for years, but I was. So it's been good. It's been busy. I've actually watched a lot of movies in the last week and a half. Gone to the movie theater, seen a couple movies, watched a lot of television, some with my kids, some just by myself. I've consumed a lot of content since we last talked 2 weeks ago, which has been fun. It's also helped get me, I guess, motivated again to make videos and to make the videos work on projects, and so working on projects again. So it's been good. How about you, Wes?
Well, since the last time we talked, it's been a lot of visiting with other maker accomplices or friends or acquaintances.
Accomplice might be a good term right now.
A couple.
I was so happy, mad, sad, angry at all of your posts.
Well, some of them I didn't really post about at the time. The first being that Jesse Wada came to town and visited at Nicole and Turi's house from When Geeks Craft. If you're familiar with the channel or with the podcast, you've heard of those names before. And she was doing like a cross-country thing, visiting makers along the way, and she happened to go through North Carolina and crash there. So we had a long night of playing board games and card games, and we played Munchkin and Codenames and Flux and some other stuff. Had pizza. It was good. It was a good time. Stayed up. I think we surprised her how willingly we were to stay up late on a weeknight. She was like surprised about how dedicated our little core group is here in the North Carolina area, of us making time for each other and kind of showing face and enjoying each other's company. So it was fun. And then last week on Wednesday, I think, I hopped in a car with, again, Nicole and Turi from When Geeks Craft, and we went on a little road trip to Elizabethtown, Kentucky to see the I Like to Make Stuff crew. And Sean is shaking his head. We had planned that for a little while. Some of the dates were a little hard to nail down until kind of last minute. But we just wanted to go up there and kind of visit with them. Nicole and Turi were supposed to go up there for an event later on in August, but they had some scheduling issues and they weren't going to make it. So they wanted some other time to go. So they found a little slice of a week and a weekend that they were good to go up there. So I just tagged along. I drove a little bit. It's about like 9.5 hours one way, so it's not nothing. But we left pretty early and got there around dinner time. And stayed at Josh Price. I stayed at Josh Price's house of I Like to Make Stuff, and they stayed at Anthony's house, who also works as a video editor and other things, or a videographer, I guess, for I Like to Make Stuff. And we did a lot of fun things. We played some games, had some cookouts. The first time I've played D&D willingly was there. I played it when I was in the Navy with a friend of mine, and I didn't really I don't remember having the greatest of experiences. It just wasn't really, it was like a different clique of people. I was like a fifth wheel kind of thing, and it just didn't really work well. But this time I created a character. I was a rock gnome tinkerer, which was a artificer, I believe. So it was kind of cool. So I was like an inventor of things that I can imbue with magic. So I had a robotic velociraptor that I could summon to attack things. It was pretty fun. They had a little game store that I bought like little figurines or whatever. I guess you play D&D with, and it was a great game store. And I bought 4 different figurines or figures and like cut and like modified and super glued as much as I could, like to kind of cobble them together. And so without any paint, I might add. And so I made like this little dude. It was pretty fun. We got to play on there.
Was everything like off-white?
Yeah, exactly. It was off-white. Yes. Yeah. We played on their D&D like table that they have featured in one of the more recent videos. That was pretty neat. Turi was the dungeon master, and it was a lot of fun. I definitely would do it again.
Still getting over the jealousy of.
If you guys live near, we would all go.
Yeah, the whole thing with distance and time.
Yes.
It was also kind of weird because the whole thing seemed to happen kind of secretively. Like, guys, we're not going to be there to record. Going on a trip. I'm like, okay. Didn't give any details, no indication whatsoever, and then all of a sudden you pop up, and I Like to Make Stuff post. I'm like, wait.
Well, that's kind of fun to show up and like that, you know, when you least expect it. You never know where I'll pop up next.
And it was Forby's post. I'm like,
it was Forby post, yeah.
Yeah,
what are you doing at Forby's post? I'm like, what?
And then Forby was like, I think I let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, he moved to Elizabethtown that Monday. We were like one and a half days away from helping him move, which was kind of funny. I was totally willing and expecting to have to lift some boxes, but they did all the heavy work before I got there.
No boxes were lifted that day.
Nope.
That's cool. I'm glad you're able to enjoy Friends.
Well, if I can't travel and see, Star Wars stuff, then that's the least I can do, I guess. We all have their advantages and disadvantages.
Mm-hmm. So what are we talking about today, gentlemen?
We are talking about a shared movie experience that we all had individually from each other. It would be great to see it together, I might add. Of Top Gun Maverick, which is a sequel to a movie that most people might have heard of. I say it that way because my wife went to get some ice cream over the weekend, and they're like, "Oh, how's your weekend?" And she's telling me the story as I saw her after my trip away, and she's like, "Oh, it was pretty good." Talking to the person giving her the ice cream cone, it's a younger kid or teenager. She's like, "Oh, how's your weekend?" "Oh, good. Yeah, I went to go see a movie." "Oh, which movie did you go see?" "Oh, I went to go see Top Gun Maverick," my wife says. And she's like, "Oh, did you know that they had another movie before that?" and my wife is just like, ugh, trying to throw up all over the ice cream counter. Like, ugh, come on. So what are your quick thoughts before we do our normal round table?
So first of all, I think this movie has been my most anticipated movie of the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years.
Really?
Well, because they've been talking about it for the past 5 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, the movie used to come out 2 years ago, but ever since I heard that they were going to be doing a sequel to Top Gun, which for a long time I never thought would ever actually happen. But it immediately became my most anticipated movie once they announced that they were actually going to make the film. And even more so since they released the first trailer. Just completely awestruck by it. Like a lot of other people growing up in the 80s, I was supremely infatuated with the Top Gun. In fact, that is why I was trying to join the Navy, is I wanted to fly planes. None of that ever happened, but the desire to do so has, kind of remained. And of course, it's just a big popcorn movie anyways, regardless of all the inaccuracies and, all that's already come to light. But it's still just a really fun movie. And I like this one just as much. Almost better.
I think I like it better. I think I like it better. Mm-hmm. Myself, coming from a naval background, it's an easy one to pick at, especially I was in naval aviation community, so I picked up on a lot of inaccuracies that most people would kind of gloss over. Like little radar displays that were supposed to be in the F-14, they didn't operate the way that they showed them, because in the past, like they showed the little radar, he's got a little circle. He's like, oh, we got some bogeys coming, blah, blah, blah. And it was a circle that would sweep around like the typical radar screen you see in the movies. But in fighter jets, especially of that age, they have what's called fire control radar. So their radar shape is like a pizza slice. So they're at the tip of the pizza slice, and it just goes back and forth like a windshield wiper, like super fast, because all they care about is like where they're chasing. So they don't have like a spinning radar that is like sticking out of the airplane. Like the antenna has to physically move in a circle to like scan around you to produce that sweep. And so the planes lack that. They just have like a little box basically in the nose of the airplane that kind of oscillates left and right. So it's constantly looking forward. And it gets all the other data from tracking other bogies and whatnot from an airplane that is never mentioned in the original that I happen to work on. So I had like a little vested interest, a little biased. Like they never mentioned the E2C Hawkeye. Like you guys, you jokers can't do anything without us. We're like, it's the plane that would launch up and provide command and control over the airspace. And without that, fighters are basically blind within this very limited kind of range. And I must say that when I went into this movie, I did not expect to have my favorite cameo in a movie ever, which you might think is Val Kilmer. Spoiler alert! This is a Spoilercast. Just which one put that out there. Val Kilmer was cool to see in there. That was nice. But the best cameo for me was they included the flippin' E2 Hawkeye. And when I saw that thing, I like did like a fist pump and I almost like squealed like a girl. It was hilarious. And like Josh like leans over and like looks at me getting excited. And like they showed the inside, like from the there's 3 back seaters in the back that have their own displays that do all the command and control stuff. And there was a shot, it was from the inside the airplane, which is impressive because a lot of that stuff in there is like secret. Like you can't show a lot of things in there. So they did some strategic filming and probably some editing to make sure that nothing was shown that shouldn't be shown. But yeah, it was legit, and they did a good job with that, and I was super stoked. And then there was other details I'll hit on later on, but my first impression, like I was already enjoying it up until that point, but then when the E2 showed up, I'm like, all right, this is awesome. Like all is forgiven from your past transgressions, I guess.
Yeah, when I first heard that they were making a sequel to Top Gun, I had absolutely no interest whatsoever. Because I'm like, this is another pointless sequel that's going to be a cash grab. That's just going to be a whole nostalgia over anything. Like, there's no point to making a Top Gun sequel movie. And that's what I thought until I found out that Joseph Kosinski was going to be the director of it. And the second I found out that he was directing it, I was like, okay. maybe I can get behind this. And then the first trailer came out, and I was like, I'm done. Yeah, this is gonna be awesome. Like, even if it's not amazing, it's gonna be awesome. And that said, it was one of the best theater experiences I think I've ever had in my entire life. It was amazing. The movie was amazing. It was cheesy. Yes, it was like a retelling of the original. Yes, like all that other kind of stuff.
Wait, are we saying that Donovan actually liked a movie that he saw in the theater?
I know.
I mean, is that a first on the podcast?
Probably. But it was fantastic. I had such a good time, and it was so good that every opportunity since I watched that movie, I tell everybody, I'm like, you need to see this movie, and you need to see it in the theater. This movie, like, not solely this movie. There are other movies that we could talk about too, but like this movie, I think will like help bring back movies into the theater in a world where like everything is streaming nowadays. There's almost no point to going to see a movie in the theater. No, go see this movie in the theater. Because I loved it. It was fantastic. Fantastic.
I want to see it again. And I went just with my son. My son has become a big fan of Top Gun. The first one as well. And saying that it's probably been one of your best theater experiences, watching it with my son next to me and seeing how excited he got during certain scenes made it even a better experience for me to see how much he was into it. So much so that I want to go back to the theater again, watch it with my wife because she didn't get a chance to see it. But I know that my son's going to get mad if he doesn't get to tag along again too.
And it's great because it's like there are 4 acts in this movie. Typically movies are in 3 acts. This movie has 4 acts. And the 3rd act is incredible. Like one of the best acts in a movie ever. Changed my mind. Fight me. Hashtag don't fight me. Whatever. Like, what did you guys think of the overall structure of the movie?
The 4th act came as a little bit of a surprise to me, though.
It was like total Mission Impossible?
Well, I think I only knew a little bit about it because you had said something about it ahead of time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have expected anything. But it was kind of interesting that there's this little bit extra in the film that wasn't part of the original formula, which I thought was perfectly fine. It added a little something extra to the film that actually I think it probably needed it just a little bit, just to kind of break a little bit of the structure and the sameness from the first one.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's not that different really from like The Force Awakens, in the sense that Force Awakens was like a mirror for like the story structure and like how it mirrored older ones, and it basically took the same formula, even with like a giant Death Star-esque type of space station, and like a lot of the like the mirroring that happens in the poetry, as George Lucas would call it, in Star Wars.
The rhyming.
The rhyming, yes, thank you. And like the nostalgia bait, like this had a lot of that in it. I would love to do like a in-depth like breakdown of like why it works for some movies and not others. Is it because that this didn't have so much baggage like behind it? It didn't have decades worth of cartoons and comics and all these things that go along with Star Wars. This is just almost like the first movie was a one-shot, and so it didn't have anything beyond the scope of the beginning and end of that one movie, and so it was sort of just familiar enough to not be nostalgia porn, or what? Like, I don't know. Not that I have a problem with it. It's just interesting the dichotomy there, the difference.
I think with movies like this, it kind of helps that it's not a mystery box type movie. We're not looking for some big twist. We're not looking for who's a secret character is going to pop up. We're not looking for any of those Easter. Well, I know there's still some Easter eggs in there, but not in the same way. And I think that it just lends itself to be enjoyed a little bit more, especially right now in comparison to all other movies that are in the theater.
That said, the way that they filmed this movie made it what it was. This movie would not be what it is had it been like every other movie nowadays, where it's a blue screen on a studio lot or whatever. Like the fact that like 99% of this movie is practical, real people, real G-forces sucking your face back into your skull, like all of that kind of stuff. The ailerons coming off the freaking plane as they like invert, and it is so good. It's so good. But the this movie would not be what it was without the cinematography that went into creating this movie. And like going back and listening to like the behind the scenes and stuff like that, is the fact that Tom Cruise like pushed off making this movie until he had all of that, Mission Impossible experience to realize that you could like pull off what he wanted to pull off for this movie. That aside, this entire movie felt like a love letter to Tom Cruise.
Every Tom Cruise movie feels like a love letter to Tom Cruise.
But this especially. If there was like a Opus Dei or whatever for Tom Cruise, I think this would be like the Opus Dei of Tom Cruise. Wait, what was that?
I think there already is kind of an Opus Dei for Tom Cruise. It's called, he has his own building in downtown LA with Scientology on the top.
No, well, okay. Yeah, that aside, the cinematography.
I know what you mean.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fact that everything is quote unquote real adds to a certain authenticity that for some reason can't really be replicated artificially with computers. And I don't know exactly what that is, because it's really easy to do planes and vehicles on a computer. I'm not exactly sure what it is. There were a couple moves in the airplanes that I'm not sure that were completely realistic.
Real?
Yeah. and
like the F-35 that just goes.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the one I was going to bring up though too.
Which one?
The climactic scene at the end where
the fifth gen fighter that did that wonky move.
Fighter.
Yeah, they have thrust vectoring. They can do that.
I was wondering if that was actually possible now. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, the unknown, like the mystery, like Red Star enemy plane. Yeah, they can do that. It's nuts.
Yeah, that scene alone was just unreal. The editing, I could gush about the editing. The editing for this movie was just fantastic. Because the editing, you have to realize like how many hundreds of hours of footage they had to go through to get the sequences that they did to tie that entire act together is just.
And at $11,000 per jet per hour.
Yeah.
To record it, and apparently I saw some of the behind the scenes stuff. They basically had like to turn the actor in the second seat of the jet. It was just him and the pilot, and they had to activate when it was going to start and stop recording. Apparently, oh, here's where the scene starts, and they hit it, and then it records their reaction and whipping around in the cockpit or whatever. And apparently the guy who played Goose's son accidentally erased an entire like flight's worth of data because he hit like a button wrong or something. Yeah. And so they said it was just kind of like the director has no control over that. It's just like, you two people are going up and I won't know till an hour and a half later when you guys get back and we review the footage if it's good or not. Like there was a lot of trust that they put into a different way of filming that they're all not, no one's used to, which was cool. Another little detail I wanted to add is that there was and this is easily glossed over in most other, movies that involve jets, right? So when they found the F-14 in the enemy's airbase or whatever, and they get in it, or Tom Cruise gets in it, and then there was that other little cart that they had with a little hose that they hooked up to the airplane, and all that stuff. That is real. For most jets, you have to they can't supply their own source of air to start the engine running. Some jets have what's called an APU, which they mentioned at the very beginning on that futuristic fighter that was like went Mach 10 or whatever, they actually said the phrase APU, and that stands for Auxiliary Power Unit, and that's like a third jet engine that is in the airplane. It's kind of like a starter for the rest of the engines. It provides the air to start the other ones up. And F-14s in particular, and I believe F-18s, if memory serves, they don't have a way to provide that starting air, and they use what's called a huffer. And so the second dude, Goose's son, went and grabbed the rooster. Yes, thank you. Went and grabbed the hose from the huffer, and they actually used the correct hand signal, which I'm doing here on camera, to Tom Cruise to verify that it was attached and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool, because it's like a plane captain signal. It's like a third tier, like deep cut, for people that are actually doing this stuff for for real. And the fact that they just had the detail to add that little thing, you can't just jump in a jet and hit start and have it start. Like, that was cool. Although there's a little technicality where they didn't need to hook it up to the second engine, because there's like a bleed air system where the one engine already started and it can start the second one without needing the hose. That's fine, whatever. That's how they start an air engine in midair. When it dies, they have to have a source of air to like start it up again, so there's a connection between the two. But that's fine. The fact that they included that piece of support equipment was awesome. That just that and the E2, like all other transgressions were like completely nullified. And they fixed all that other things. Like there were some bogus patches that were on Tom Cruise's original flight suit that were not real. They were like amalgamation of other things, and they completely used real stuff this time, which was good. So I would have to be like super nitpicky to like have a problem with most other things. They did a lot of tiny little details that added up to be a great experience for sure.
What did you think of the characters in the movie?
I thought they were really good, actually. I don't have a lot of criticism of the movie in terms of characters. I thought they were all what they should be, I guess, in the context of the film. I really liked John Hamm's character, just playing. I'm watching the film and I'm thinking how weird it is. I mean, I'm sure this happens in certain instances, but Tom Cruise is probably older than John Hamm. And from Tom Cruise's perspective, I mean, it just seems kind of funny, but ranking officer is ranking officer, I'm assuming.
Sure.
So
sometimes they can be younger than you, yeah.
Yeah, so age isn't going to matter at all. But it was interesting.
And Jennifer Connelly, she did a good job. I liked seeing her in there.
I mean, because her character was basically a one line from Top Gun 1, right?
Yeah, 2 lines, yep.
Yeah, and they brought her in as a love interest for this. I kind of like it was someone other than Kelly McGillis. Like, I didn't want that character to actually come back in a way.
The fact that they had Jennifer Connelly, I think, was funny, considering the fact that when, like, for the generation that grew up with Top Gun, Jennifer Connelly was like Labyrinth, man, heartthrob for an entire generation of people that grew up with Top Gun.
And my generation is not forgotten.
Yeah, I know. I believe they premiered in the same weekend, if memory
really?
serves. Yeah, really close. I think I saw an interview with her, and she said that it was kind of funny to have like a full circle thing where she was in Labyrinth as like a teenager when Top Gun was released.
But yeah, I was like, oh, that is smart casting. For the demographic they're probably trying to reach with this movie, that is smart casting. That said, that entire plot, that entire storyline has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
No,
they could cut it out, still be the same movie.
Yeah, but I actually think it was necessary in a way though too, because he still has had a life outside the military in a way, and
yeah,
they don't really say what his role would probably be going forward. But it looks like he's got to be pretty close to retirement age anyways.
Right.
There was a lot of, I mean, I will admit, there's a lot of cheese in this movie. Some of it was just so cheesy. But that said, like, the emotional stakes that they had in this movie, freaking Top Gun movie made me cry. Like, you would not think Top Gun movie make you cry. The whole scene with the Val Kilmer, and then he breaks down. He's like, I don't know how to let go. And like that whole exchange, I was like, this isn't a Top Gun movie. What? I'm not crying. You're crying. Like, what is this? It was so well done because like there was emotional stakes that was handled, that like it wasn't a plot for plot's sake. Like it was good storytelling. It was really good. And that scene with Val Kilmer was unexpected.
Yeah.
I did not expect Val Kilmer to be in this movie.
I'm glad I didn't know about it beforehand. I thought it was just going to be limited to like a text exchange. I'm like, oh, this is how they're going to do it. Okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he actually showed up, that was pretty impressive.
You know, I think Marvel movies and a lot of movies over the last, I don't know, say 10 years have messed things up in a way in terms of expectation of stakes. Because this wasn't end of world scenario. It was a small sort, I mean, in the context of the movie, it was kind of a big deal because of the possibility of this one. And here's like really big spoiler territory. For anybody who has not seen the movie yet, you might want to.
That's the whole title of our episode. I think we're okay.
Well, no, I understand that, but I mean, a lot of the stuff we've been talking about hasn't been huge in terms of spoilers, just kind of gushing about the film, but not entirely details about the plot.
Mm-hmm.
But the altercation, the situation that they're trying to prevent, could eventually be a big deal. But it's kind of like this weird isolated incident type of thing, and it almost seems kind of small in scale compared to so many other films that come out right now and try to raise the stakes so much that it almost seems ridiculous now. And this kind of helped bring it back down, because in the context of the characters in the film and just the situation, it is kind of a big deal. And it was kind of nice having something brought down to that scale again that seems, I don't know, manageable is the right adjective or term for it, but I don't know, appropriate for the scale of the movie.
Yeah, no, it was great. Like the conflict of he doesn't want to send his best friend's son on a mission that he may not come back from. Like considering the fact that he was on that mission with his with this kid's father, and when he died, like there's real like tangible conflict there, which is great. And I do have to say, I love the fact that they did not CG Val Kilmer like beauty face with the voice and everything. Like they made his real life situation be part of the movie. And I think it played so much better than if they would have done the Disney thing and just CG'd his face on another actor. And
it would have been almost disrespectful though. Yeah.
Yeah. Is he still alive?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. I knew he was having throat cancer issues, but I haven't kept up with him since the documentary.
It was pretty serious.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's also interesting. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Wes.
I was just going to say, just from a side note, it's also interesting that this is the only movie that Tom Cruise has reprised a role in besides Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible. Like, you think of all these sequels and all these actors doing sequels to their other movies. This is only his second time doing that, which is kind of interesting in such a long career that he, this is the one that, kind of made his career in a lot of ways. Like, elevated, like, shot him to stardom.
You mean it wasn't Days of Thunder?
Right. So it's kind of neat that he had to have a level of confidence in it to be willing to do that. It's impressive.
As much as I like the film, there's one thing I'll complain about, and that is especially towards the end of the film, the dialogue got a little bit dumb with the repetition. And I'm not sure I remember the exact line, but there was something about an exchange between Tom Cruise and Miles Teller, where Tom Cruise is trying to teach a lesson or something, and it kept coming back, and it was the same phrase. It got a little bit corny, but out of a 2-hour movie, that's my only gripe out of the entire thing. Oh no, I do love that their sports scene actually had a bigger purpose.
Oh yeah.
In the film, than just like the models playing volleyball.
Right. Hmm.
Now
Yes.
it's models playing football.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. Like I said, if you have not seen it, go see it.
I'll be buying it the first day it comes available on actual disc. Yeah.
Yep.
When it becomes physically available, I will be buying an actual physical copy of it. That's how much I like the film. Isn't it weird that we're reviewing a film and there's almost not as much to say because it's a standalone, it's not connecting to a bigger universe, it's not shared storyline with 50 years of history.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have the baggage. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
It is.
Yeah, I'm glad I saw it.
At the same time, it makes the spoiler cast kind of short.
It kind of does. We don't have that much to bitch about.
Is that all a spoiler cast is? Just complaining
No.
a certain thing?
It's felt that way, but that's just because of the incessant amount that we have to watch and think about and connect. But anyways,
I did see some other tie-ins. They had like an Ace Combat DLC and also I think a Microsoft Flight Simulator
I have
content.
not had a chance to check it out yet, but
I'm surprised that you didn't.
I know.
Because apparently the Flight Simulator has VR support too. I read.
It does. I've done it in VR.
I was a little disappointed there was not an E2 though. I'm like, ooh, there's gonna be an E2. I'm like, well, please let there be an E2.
We can probably get one off the marketplace though.
That's fair. I'll check that out.
I got a quick question for you guys because I don't remember hearing the take on this. The experimental plane that Tom Cruise flies when they film the Dark Star, I guess what they call it, is that an actual plane?
No, it's like an SR-72, which didn't really exist. It's fictional.
Like the Blackbird.
That's SR-71, so it's supposed to be.
No, I know it's a 71, but is it supposed to be the evolution of that?
Yeah.
So was that plane CG then? Like those sequences then?
I think so.
So that's the only time it kind of went off. Okay.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
It's still a fun sequence too.
Yeah, the whole "Where am I?" Earth. The entire theater just busted up. I kind of mentioned this in the last podcast where we talked about it, but I was with a theater full of people, and it is a better experience watching this movie with a theater full of people. It's still a great experience watching it, even if you were by yourself in the movie theater. But seeing it with other people kind of amplifies the enjoyment that could be had with a movie like this in the movie theater.
Yeah, so I just looked it up. So the SR-72 is a proposed real aircraft. It's the son of Blackbird, as it says on this article. It's envisioned to be actually an unmanned, hypersonic, reusable reconnaissance, surveillance, and strike aircraft. So all kinds of things. It doesn't actually exist beyond that. It's estimated to have a top speed of Mach 6, which is twice as fast as the predecessor. So currently, the airspeed record for an air-breathing engine is the SR-71 Blackbird. Just for completionist's sake here.
Well, it doesn't exist as far as we know.
Right.
Because that's what they said about the Aurora for a while, too.
That's fair.
You know, it does exist.
Something that we're geeking out about. That's right. I'm geeking out over Ms. Marvel?
Yeah, Miss Marvel.
Yes, thank you. Watched it. I quite enjoyed it. It was a fresh, kind of new take on how to tell a story. I thought, like, visually it was really cool. And it set itself apart from other Marvel stuff. I don't know what you call it, I don't want to go spoilers, but they did this thing where, like, they use elements in the dialogue or in the movie and, like, project information from it, like, within the environment itself. So, like, if someone gets a text message, it, like, appears.
A la Scott Pilgrim kind of thing?
Yeah. I like that. I'm sure there's a term in the film industry for that. They used to do it in some of the Splinter Cell games too, from back in the day, where you would get some sort of new mission parameters and it would show up on a wall behind you as you entered the building, kind of thing. I just always thought that was kind of cool. But I thought the animations and the editing to kind of give herself a interesting vantage point or her own narrative, which was kind of cool. So that's my choice.
This is a series and not a movie, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. It's only the first episode that's out.
That's right. Yep.
I keep telling my daughter that this series was made for her because she doesn't really like any of the Marvel series. She doesn't feel like they're really made for her. And I told her that this one is supposed to be a little bit more for her demographic. So I'm hoping that we'll have a little bit more of a happy camper in the house for that series. Have you done what are you geeking out about?
I am geeking out about Everything Everywhere All at Once that I saw the night before last in the movie theater at midnight. And it, aside from Top Gun, that movie was like one of my other favorite movie experiences in a movie theater ever. It was so quirky, but so good. And so the visual storytelling, the actual storytelling, they spoke Chinglish in that movie in a way that people actually speak Chinglish, and it was great. The Chinese translations were almost on point. Like, half the movie is in Chinese, which I speak Chinese, and so like I was getting double out of a movie than I normally get if it's just one language. And it was just the humor. There's so much humor in there that like only Chinese people would be able to get, or only Chinese American people would be able to get. That added so much to that movie, and it was so good. The martial arts and the fanny pack. How many fanny packs do you think are going to be sold as a result of people watching that movie? Oh my gosh, it was so good. And there is so much like bad content that I've consumed lately that this movie was just such a relief and gave me hope again in movies. It was fantastic. I'm geeking out about it so hard because it was so good. What about you, Sean?
I'm geeking out about a couple of things, so I'm just going to kind of dump a couple of things all at once. First is Stranger Things season 4. The first volume came out. I watched all of it. A little bit rough in the beginning, but I ended up liking it overall. And you definitely feel like they're going to be bringing it to a close, but I enjoyed it. It's a little bit less fun than the previous seasons. It's a lot heavier handed, but it was still a pretty fun ride for the first part. And good.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, have you watched it, Wes?
I've watched most, but not all of it.
So, like, every season of Stranger Things is like an antithesis of what it's inspired by. And this season, at least like season 4, part 1, because they split it into 2 parts, is totally Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Thing.
Well, there's actually more than that, but it's the 80s horror films.
Oh, and
Freddy Krueger.
The house from Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the 80s horror films.
Right.
Yeah. And it matches the tone with what
Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, for more reasons than just that alone. Like, like I'm like, oh,
I never watched any of those movies.
Which I've never seen any of them either. I know enough of the tropes to recognize them, though.
So sleepwalking, right, is what you're kind of referring to in terms of like.
No, the actor that played Freddy Krueger is literally in this movie, and they referenced Freddy Krueger.
Oh, is he the dad?
He's the dude with the.
Yeah, the dad from the Amityville Horror House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yes. Yeah. Spoiler alert. It's in the casting credits. It's fine.
It's good, but it's definitely different than the other 3 seasons. The kids are older. The content itself is is heavier. So much so that I'm not letting my kids watch it. I let them watch the previous seasons.
Oh, really?
But we're not letting them watch this one. I
Because
don't
of
think
the
it's...
body horror, the teen angst, like.
I'm just gonna make it simple and say everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't let my kids watch it, so
it's definitely a lot more graphic.
My kids are older, quite a bit older than yours, though, too.
Yeah, the gore is higher for sure.
Not yet.
Yeah.
There's no rush.
I don't know. Season three was gross. In terms of like gore, I would take season 4 over season 3 any day.
I don't quite feel the same way because I think I think there's enough goofiness in season 3 that offsets it, and I think that's maybe why I feel different. I mean, never-ending story.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Not geeking out, but a little bit of self-plug. I put out a video today. I finally got the rocking chair project done, so that's out and into the world.
Oh.
And now I can move on to other projects. But next week, I'm going to Disneyland. And I have actually Disneyland and California Adventure. And I've not been to Disneyland in 6-7 years at least. So I've not seen any of the new Star Wars stuff. I haven't been to California Adventure since California Adventure opened. I was there on opening night and have not been back since. So I get to see Avengers Campus and the Cars Land, and I'm trying to save all my pennies because it is expensive, and I don't expect to be going back again. Well, we have a 3D pass, but after this summer, I don't know if I'm going to be back within the next 10 years.
Have you booked all of your times and gotten everything planned out?
We're in the process of doing that. I kind of hate that that's the process now. It makes me not even want to go after this. But, well, we'll see how the experience is, and hopefully I'll like it better than Star Wars Celebration. So.
There you go. I wanted to also say that I think the day that this podcast airs, it's close enough to be it's our anniversary, guys.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it? What was it?
June 10th. June 10th, actually tomorrow.
Is it the 6th anniversary or 5th? I'm so old I don't remember. 6th. That's what I was thinking.
It's our 6th anniversary. June 10th, 2016 was our very first episode.
So, wow.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Yay. The other people I'm cheering for, not just ourselves, are our patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks. They help us keep the show on the air for the 6 seasons that we've done it so far. I guess you could call it 6 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
With their financial
6 seasons in a movie.
That's right. I understood that reference. Definitely thanks to our top patrons, especially Jordan, Square Splinter, and Clinton. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support.
So, if you have thoughts on Top Gun, and especially if you have thoughts on other content that is currently coming out, because we will be talking about it here on the show, talk to us about it individually on our own little channels that we got going on, mostly on Instagram, but also websites and whatnot. So if you want to talk to Wes about all the technical things at Top Gun and what did you call it? Naviation?
Naviation. Yeah, I love it.
Naviation. You can find him at Geeksmithing. If you want to talk to Sean, you can find him at Geek Builders. And if you want to talk to myself, you can find me at Once Upon a Workbench.
And you can also find out some more information on our website, makinggeeks.com. We have a contact page where you can list some suggestions for the show and topic ideas. And you can also listen to all of our past episodes on the homepage of the site. And be sure to check out the shop, too, where we have some Making Geeks themed merchandise for you to check out right there on the website, makinggeeks.com. You can find new episodes of the podcast every Saturday morning on your favorite podcast player of choice. I'd like to say thank you for everybody hanging out in the live chat. You had a pretty good discussion going on during the show and talking about Tom Cruise and all the other stuff about the movie there in the live chat. And if you'd like to be part of that fun time, you can do so every Thursday evening, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, and 8:30 Central.
You got it.
I got it.
Yeah.
So from all of us to all of you, have a great week.
Night, everybody.
Night. Just as his motorcycle is pulling up in front of my house. God.